My name is Maria Koinova and I'm the principal investigator of the European Research Council starting grant Diasporas and Contested Sovereignty. I'm here to talk with you about an article which I published with the European Journal of International Relations in 2014. This article has been interested in understanding why diasporas mobilize in different ways, whether they do this through the channels of the host state in which they live, or they do this more through transnational channels. Specifically, I have been interested in giving more variation to arguments that have been thinking about diasporas as simply warmongers or peacemakers. In that sense, I have been looking into the comparative variation of mobilization of three diasporas, the Albanian, Armenian and Palestinian in the UK. And specifically with regard to episodes of contention in their countries of origin, which could be qualified mostly as violent. This has been the war in Nagorno-Karabakh in the early 90s, the secessionist movement in Kosovo in the 90s, and the post-Oslo agreement developments with mobilization patterns in the Palestinian case after 1993. So the mobilization in the United Kingdom of these three diasporas has diverged as to where these diasporas have placed the majority of their claims and efforts. The Armenian diaspora has been much more interested in connecting to the House of Lords, into Whitehall and other institutions of the UK, and has been much more successful through these efforts. On the other side comes the Palestinian diaspora, which has also built certain institutions in the UK. Nevertheless, the predominant effort within this diaspora has been to mobilize transnationally, which means that they have engaged not simply the Palestinian communities abroad, but also Islamic and socialist networks. Albanians, on the other side, occupy a middle-range category. They have built quickly certain institutional lobbies in the UK, while they have also continued to act in transnational patterns. So how to explain this variation is by way of two factors which I see that they co-occur with each other. The one is the foreign policy of the host state, in this case the UK, which aligns or doesn't align with the desires of the diasporas with regards to their countries of origin. And the second one is the positionality of diaspora activists and the socio-spatial connections they hold to different contexts, whether this is the UK or other contexts abroad. Imagine that we are all here in this particular geographical space and a couple of people carry different connections to that space. Basically, diasporas are rooted cosmopolitans, but some are more rooted in the host land than are others. And this determines to a large degree about which networks and which relationships will be more activated through the mobilization process. In that sense, I see that the positionality of the Armenian diaspora has been relatively strong vis-à-vis the UK as a host state, and it has been relatively weak with regards to the Palestinians, which have had and continue to have very strong connectivities to Palestine, to camps in Lebanon, or to transit states. And the Albanian diaspora occupies a middle ground in this explanation. In terms of policy recommendations, I would like to suggest that diasporas are not simply thought about as warmongers or peacemakers, but that the specific ways in which they mobilize through the state and transnationally is examined to a larger degree. In the first place, transnational channels may offer much more opportunities for transgressive action than one could assume with state-based channels. And the second recommendation is to think outside of the box of national politics. We usually think about states that exist on the map of the world, and yet socio-spatial relationships of diasporas who mobilize are existent in transnational social fields that do not necessarily and always overlap with our map of understanding how states function.